I want to welcome all of our viewers tonight and this afternoon. This is the very first Gringos Podcast, and we're very, very honored to have one of the great drummers, jazz drummers of all time with us today, Joe LaBarbera. Joe has the distinction of being on one of the premier trio albums of all time, the Gil Evans album with Mark Johnson on bass. You guys it's still one of the all-time great classic jazz albums out there. And you come from an extremely musical family yourself with two older brothers that are a sax player and a trumpet player and great arrangers and writers. And you guys record a lot together, which is very cool. And also joining us today, Clyde Score, drummer with the Gringos. And I thought maybe it'd be really fun to have Clyde do a lot of the questioning with Joe. Take it away.
Well, I do have a lot of questions. Joe, I first heard you play with Chuck Mangione in the early days with Jerry Nywood.
Yeah.
And I think those were great albums as well. Was Joel DeBartolo playing bass on those?
No, actually, the bass player was Alfonso Johnson, who's a colleague of mine out here at Cal Arts. But he and I came over from Woody Herman's band together to join Chuck around the same time. And then he stayed for about a year and maybe a year and a half. And then he was replaced by Chip Jackson.
Mm-hmm. And are you still teaching at Cal Arts then?
I am. I'm going to go one more year and then I'm going to retire. It's time for some new blood in that chair.
Well, are you teaching jazz studies there or percussion or?
I'm teaching the jazz drum set. I teach jazz history, and I also have an ensemble, two ensembles in the spring and one in the fall.
You can make music by making music, and you can make music through your students too. That's you're passing the torch on to another generation and making music through your students. That's a joyful thing.
Because just 5 minutes ago, I got another student looking for a letter of recommendation for a position he's applying for at a college here. Mm-hmm. That to me is the most rewarding, just to see them going out there and carrying on and having the passion for what we all have a passion for.
Do you play other percussion instruments as well, like vibes or marimba or anything like that? Or
no, never dallied in any of that. Never really had training in any of that, Clyde. I'm strictly a drum set player, but I certainly have.
But didn't you have a little bit of training playing some woodwinds as a kid?
Oh yeah. My father started me out on the drum set, and then I think a year later I started on clarinet and then saxophone. So I played those all through grade school and high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, I stunk.
Well, I think every drummer, should have the experience of playing something either melodic or harmonic, because even if you didn't continue to pursue those instruments, as a drummer, you're playing not only in response to the rhythmic phrases around you, but you're hearing those harmonies and those melodies, and those are inspirational for us as drummers as well,
That is true, Clyde. And in fact, that's the reason Alan Dawson, when I started at Berkeley, decided to delay the mallet instruments, because he knew I'd had that training on the clarinet and saxophone. So he thought that gap, to the extent that it applies to playing the drum set and being a musical drummer, has been filled. So, yeah.
What a wonderful thing that you got to study with Alan at Berkeley.
The best.
What a great musician.
Fantastic musician, fantastic teacher, just a wealth of knowledge and willing to give you anything you wanted. If I'd see him play a lick, he'd lay it on me. He taught me all the cross stick stuff that the Boston guys were doing back in the day.
Yeah.
Anything you wanted, the man. He's just an open book.
I'm sure you found too that teaching's a learning experience. People have questions and they say, well, I want to play this. And you say, well, I'd like to play that too. As soon as I learn it, I will teach it to you.
That's exactly right, man. It's like it's really about staying one step ahead of them, because every kid that walks in the door has got something that they're interested in that's different from the last one or the next one. And,
Oh, yeah.
you just really need to be sharp. But more to the point, I think you just need to be willing to go there for the student. You need to have an interest in what they're interested in, even if you cannot cut it to the fullest, to your satisfaction immediately, or even with some shedding. At least you're willing to go there and show them that it is meaningful and that what they're after is important.
Right. I think there's some virtue in every style of drumming.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a student one time. People learn. I'm kind of a visual learner, so if I write it on the page or see it on the page, it makes sense to me. But it's not always that way for other people. I had a young student who was almost totally blind, but visual learning for him was, I'd have to write charts this big with notes this big, but that wasn't his forte as far as how he learned.
Mm-hmm.
For him, it was hearing and copying what he heard, and then feeling it in his muscle memory. That's what worked for him in that circumstance.
Yeah, that's quite a challenge. I had one visually impaired student when I first started out at CalArts, and this guy could hear everything. I mean, really, it was amazing. I mean, that shouldn't come as any surprise, but the detail that he picked up in particular passages that I overlooked because I was going about it from the other perspective, trying to see it, and it's we can learn from everybody, right?
Oh yeah. Did you were there certain books that you studied out of in the beginning that helped you a lot?
I didn't have much real formal training in the beginning. My father got me started on the drum set. We had a Haskell Haar beginner's drum method that we worked out a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, once I could play time and make the family band sound halfway decent, from my end of from my chair.
Well, you're the youngest. You're the youngest in the family, aren't you?
That is true.
Yeah.
Which ain't saying much anymore, man.
Yeah, I know. But growing up, you had the family band going. Everybody was playing, and that was. I had the same thing in my house. But
is that right? That's fantastic experience, right? How fortunate for you, Lynn.
Really. My father was a trombone player, and he had a degree had a master's in music education.
Wow.
So I was the trombone player, and my brother played trumpet. So 2 trombones and trumpet. We had a brass choir every holiday.
Fabulous, man. That's great. So great.
I know my first gigs were with my dad when I was about 14. I started gigging with my dad and some other union musicians, just doing standards. But that was my first performance really on the drum kit,
Those are important. Those gigs are important, man.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Joe, who are your biggest influences as far as other players that you listen to?
I was exposed to a lot of generations of drummers right early on, because my father had some Benny Goodman 78s and some Basie 78s, and plus in the family band we were playing, Basie and Fletcher Henderson and Glenn Miller stuff, as well as the polkas and all the other things. So I was exposed to those styles. I think the first drummer that really made an impression on me back then was Joe Jones. My brother
Basie.
Well, more with Lester Young small band, because my brother Pat was heavily into Lester Young because he's a tenor player, and so he had all these recordings with Joe Jones playing the drums. And also on the same records there was a very young Connie Kay, and sometimes it would be who else was playing drums with him? Buddy.
Right.
Buddy playing with Prez. So those drummers had an impact. I mean, the biggest impact I had from any drummer was from Shelly Manne, because once I was introduced to Shelly, it put me in a direction and really helped to inform the drummer I was going to become.
Didn't he play with George Shearing too for quite a while?
He played with everybody. I mean, I don't know how much he actually played with Shearing. He played with Andre Previn quite a bit early on. He played with everybody. I mean, that his recorded legacy movies and albums. It's astonishing, really. No one can even come close to the body of work that guy's put out there. But all great stuff. And the jazz drumming was, it had everything that I wanted as a musician. It was swinging, it was hip, but it also had melody in it. It was musical stuff. It was coming from another perspective than the other guys that I was listening to at the time, who were primarily drummers, playing great, but rhythm was their
Right.
main expression.
One of the things they used to require at Berkeley is it was Gil Evans, Out of the Cool. And surprisingly, it's Elvin playing drums. And we all think of Elvin as his polyrhythmic thing and twisting and turning and, what he did outside of the time. And yet on that album, he's playing straight, pretty much swing. He's just laying it down,
He was that much of a musician, he was always going to do the job. Whatever was required, that's what he was going to do. He wasn't out there to try to fool anybody or trick anybody. He wanted to provide what the music was asking for. He always did.
I think about, the chemistry. We were talking about Elvin and certain bands at a time, and it happens in a special time with a certain group of people. Think of the chemistry with Jimmy Garrison, McCoy Tyner, and Elvin with Coltrane.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think Elvin could have played that freely and Coltrane that freely without maybe McCoy Tyner and Jimmy Garrison holding the root down, on the bottom to allow for that.
I agree with you. What I tell my students quite often is, you're listening to Elvin and you're listening to Tony and you're knocked out by what they're playing. But what you've got to keep in mind is what inspired them to play what they just played. Where was the music headed that brought that out of them? And do you hear them doing this with anybody else? And the answer, of course, is no, because there are these particular combinations where it just works. And so everybody benefits, right? I mean, try to imagine Coltrane without Elvin, it's just, it would have been good. It would have been really good. Maybe
but it wouldn't have been what it was.
Exactly right. They found each other as it should be. Same with Bill Evans and Scott LaFaro and Paul Motion. That trio came together under a particular set of difficult circumstances that was meant to be. So this is, this is part of the beauty of music, the things you don't know that are going to happen.
Yeah. One of the things that you mentioned, I think, drumming, the drum also waltzes. So, so it can be a solo melodic instrument, but primarily we are a relational instrument. We're meant to be playing with a bass player and a piano player, or sax player, or vocalist. And so much of the time our role is accompanying, even if it's in a real free jazz context.
Mm-hmm.
And so the licks we play, the little patterns we play, don't have much meaning other than in the context. Elvin played what he played by hearing McCoy Tyner with him and Jimmy Garrison and Coltrane, or he wouldn't have played that.
Yeah. Another musician would have gotten a different response.
Did you hear Elvin on the Unity album with Larry Young?
Sure. I used to see Elvin quite often when I was in the Army. He used to play around, Philadelphia and Trenton with the trio with Joe Farrell and Jimmy Garrison. And then, of course, I got to know him really well once I got to New York, and my brother Pat was playing with him. So over the years, I had many opportunities to see him in action and to see, the lessons that he learned being a member of John Coltrane's band and being a sideman for Coltrane or a colleague of Coltrane's. He then brought all of those strengths as a leader into his own bands, and he provided that environment for the other musicians to be able to just figure it out and grow naturally. No, like, it's got to be perfect tonight. None of that stuff. It's all about, let's play this music and see where it takes us. And so I admire him for that as a band leader.
Now, I've even heard him on, I heard him on a recording with Marcus Roberts, a great piano player.
Mm-hmm.
And Elvin, much like Oscar Peterson, sometimes in his playing, his emotion just come out. You can hear him kind of grunting and groaning while he plays.
Yeah.
And I'm no Elvin, believe me, but I've had people tell me, Clyde, turn off your mic. For the same reason. So I understand where it comes from. It's just,
Yeah, my brother Pat used to turn around and say, somebody oil that hinge, man. What's going on back there?
Who influenced you as far as Latin playing and stuff?
Oh man, I'm the worst guy to ask about that, honestly, man, because the Latin rhythms that I've learned from jazz drummers.
Uh-huh.
You may know Dom Moyo out at ASU.
Oh yeah,
we've been buds for years, and
I took some lessons from Dom. He's a great musician, great musician.
Well, that's a forte of his.
Oh yeah,
Latin rhythms, South American and Cuban, and Afro-Cuban.
Yeah.
But I really have just the basic ability to play those rhythms and make them feel okay and sound okay. I have not devoted a lot of time to that. And at this stage of my life, quite frankly, I'm not shutting myself off from other things, because I use these rhythms in my own band.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like I want to delve any more deeply into them for myself. I think I have what I need to be able to do them, but I can't honestly say that any person really inspired me. I mean, when I would hear Elvin and he'd have Don Elias playing the conga, I mean, that is strictly jazz conga playing, right?
Yeah.
So, that's the reference point that I have with that music.
I wanted to ask you a question about the award you got last September.
Was it from Gretsch? I got an award.
The LA Treasure Award?
No, that was from the city of Los Angeles.
Oh, the city of LA. Okay.
And the LA and the Los Angeles County Museum of Art. That was. I have to say, man, I was completely blown away with that, Lynn. That was.
When I heard about that, I was knocked out, because I have a friend that works in the arts for LA County, and he said, "That was this drummer guy," and I saw your name, and I went, "Drummer guy."
Yeah, man, I've got a nice award up here on the shelf, and I got a proclamation from the LA City Council hanging on the wall over there. All I can say is, man, I was moved deeply with that award, because I mean, for me, it was the biggest award I've ever received, and probably will always be.
Outside the field of music, that's the county of Los Angeles. That's the public.
What they're recognizing, of course, is whatever you've accomplished as a musician, but also I think they were also recognizing the number of years. I've been at CalArts now for 26 years. I think they were acknowledging some of that as well. But yes, for whatever reason, man, I was extremely grateful. It was a wonderful.
I was blown away when I heard that. It
was a wonderful occasion. Yeah, thank you, Lynn.
Wow, that's really, really cool. So before all of this stuff with this virus came about, what kind of projects did you have in the works? What were you doing? Who were you playing with?
I had stopped touring 2 years ago. I just decided that I'd had enough. I wanted to be closer to home, and it was just one of those things that came over me. And when I was overseas, and I just called Jillian. I said, "No, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I want to play." And so I've been working in Los Angeles and with a lot of younger musicians, because, well, for one thing, they're inspiring, and I think they can learn from me if I'm part of their band, and I'm glad that they're calling me. So that's basically what I've been doing.
Passing the torch.
Passing the torch. I'm just now wrapping up this book that's been, I can't believe how long it's taken. I've been working on it for over 10 years on my time with Gil Evans, and we're just about done with it here. We're tying up some loose ends, so that's something I've been working on. Right now, I'm on sabbatical from CalArts this semester, but I've been working on an online drum set instruction course for the school. So, you know, that's kind of what I've been doing and practicing. And I mean, my wife is working in the study, so she's going 7 days a week. I'm in here with my drums, just, you know, playing away, and that's what I'm doing.
Well, that's what we put the Gringos back together via Zoom, and we're writing new material, and we're getting ready to record some of it. And Clyde just finished laying down some tracks. I put some stuff down this morning, and we're just going to town on it. You know, I mean, I still have my axe right over my shoulder. You can see that.
I see it, man. You're ready to hit. So you're each recording your tracks, and then one of you is mixing them all together.
Yeah, on the Cape Cod.
Great.
Yeah, the leader of the band lives on Cape Cod.
Fantastic.
So, hey, no such thing as can't anymore.
No, that's true. I mean, thank goodness we have this technology, man. How else will we stay connected, right?
Yeah, it's great.
So, Joe, are you doing a lot of lessons with students by Skype or by Zoom?
Well, I'm not at the moment, Clyde, because like I say, I'm on sabbatical. So I'm not doing any teaching. I did give one student a lesson yesterday. He's coming in as a newbie in the fall. And he reached out, so I thought, what the hell, you know, let's try this you know, online thing. The audio quality was so bad, man.
It's really difficult.
Yeah. Right now, my inclination is to maybe record stuff and have it sent back and forth, because at least you can control the audio that you're going to get and the video. But going live, I'm just hoping that some of these, you know, some of the people that are technologically inclined are going to be working on this problem, because this is something that I think is going to happen more in the future. Even if us older musicians aren't inclined to want to play like this over the internet, I have a feeling that a lot of younger kids are going to probably want to do this, and so they need to tighten this stuff up. You know,
a lot of the young kids are so tech savvy that I think they're going to come up with it. I think. I've done lessons by Skype. I think Zoom would have better quality.
Yeah.
And so I'm just beginning to learn how to do that with the help of my friend Lynn Tivens here. Now, you wouldn't know it to look at him right now, but when he was on the road with us, his nickname was Bush. And it was because his hair didn't look exactly like it does now.
Mine didn't either, man.
None of us
the lack thereof. I had this fro that was like this, you know.
I think you may have posted a photo of that at some point. I've seen Lynn on Facebook. Yeah, man, we were all young once, man, right?
Yes. Well, and still young at heart.
Yeah.
If you've got the heart to play and the fire to play,
it
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your age is, you know.
That is true. I agree with that.
Do you practice with a click? Do you like to practice with a click or with?
I practice with a click if it's something that, you know, like, I don't know if you've looked at those Gary Chafee pattern books, you know.
Right. Yes.
He's got all the shifting subdivisions, you know. So I'll use a click for stuff like that. I also use a click with like 4-way coordination studies when I'm trying to nail everything down. I don't use it all the time, but I tell my students to do it, and I really like to do what I preach as much as I can. I like the metronome because what a student needs to understand is that if you give them an assignment, it's really gonna swing when it's locked into a specific tempo. When you've got all the elements lined up and it's locked into a beat, that's when it's going to really swing. Not, you know, there's no affectation you can lay on it that's going to make it swingy.
I've always practiced with a metronome with always.
One of my students walked into a lesson a couple of weeks ago, and he was wearing a T-shirt, and the T-shirt said, "The tempo is whatever I say it is." And so it reminded me of you know, as timekeepers, sometimes we have to take more responsibility depending on the size of the group and the chemistry of a group than other times to be a time leader.
Well, regardless of whatever responsibility that you take on, you know damn well you're going to get the blame if stuff goes wrong.
Oh yeah.
And so you might as well take the responsibility too.
Yeah, that's it. That's it exactly.
we just have a few minutes left. I just wanted to thank you again, Joe, for taking the time to talk with us and be part of our first podcast, and Clyde for all the great questions and everything. It's great seeing you, Joe. I'll tell everybody right now that we know each other for about 20-something years.
Wow.
And it comes about as a result of my friend Mike Garson and my daughter when she was 14 years of age.
And we went to Iceland.
Yes, we did. We went to Iceland together. Yeah, that's quite a while ago.
Wow. I guess it is a long time ago.
We spent a week together in Iceland.
We did, man.
Yeah.
Damn.
It was awesome. It was a real deal.
You still have a few icicles on your mustache.
Yeah, I know. I've been saving them.
Well, Joe, I want to thank you for being an inspiration to me and a lot of other drummers.
Clyde and I would talk about musicians and whatever, and he'd bring up the idea that I'd like to take lessons with this guy and that guy, and then all of a sudden your name popped up one day and it said, wait a minute, I know this guy. And he said, how do you know him? And I said, I can hook you up. And so here we go.
Well, I'm glad it worked out, and I appreciate you guys thinking of me to do this.
It's a pleasure. It's great, and it's so wonderful that you're in great shape and you're just taking life the way it should be. Easy.
Yeah, thanks.
Easy. That's how you're supposed to do it. Nice
and also great that you are through CalArts and other things investing in another generation. You're going to make music into the future through your students, and that's a wonderful thing.
I agree, man. When I see them out there, it does, well, just makes you feel good.
Oh, it's the most important thing in my life, is to try and help promote the world of arts and music in particular.
Yeah.
We're sunk. And with that, we have run out of time, gentlemen.
All right, guys.
Well, thank you so much. It was a learning experience, Joe.
What a pleasure.
Joe, thank you very much for coming on with us.
All right.
We'll be in touch. We'll be in touch soon.
All right.
Take care.
Bye now.
All right,
Have
take care.
Great day.